Are you ready?
Hello, and welcome to the Whole House Podcast, where we promise to bring you home, health, and family all in one place. We're a blog team trying our hand at podcasting, and we like to compare our different purposes and giftings and strengths to the rooms in a house. Together, we make up the whole house. So grab a cup of coffee and join our overly caffeinated team here for the Whole House Podcast. Hi, and welcome to the Whole House Podcast. Today, Carly,
Kathleen,
and Lori
are here, and we're talking about
the habit of celebration. I'm going to start out with a little quote because we just had the Whole House Coffee Hour live, and we like to do one of these little coffee breaks when we do that, which is a shorter podcast. So in her article, The Hopes and Prayers, Joyce Maynard describes what happens to many of us. We're so consumed with the feeding, the dressing, the buckling into car seats, the finding of bathrooms, and the counting of heads, she says, that we sometimes forget that there is any greater mission to raising children than making sure the crusts are cut off the sandwiches and everyone gets a balloon. So kind of what we were talking about is we can make this habit of celebration disappear if we don't do it intentionally. And we talked about a few things that we're going to talk about right now about how you can integrate the habit of celebration without spending tons of money and without lots of forethought. So I'll let these ladies share a little bit.
Well, right now we are approaching Christmas, and I know this podcast won't come out until after Christmas, but we were talking a lot about just making Christmas celebrations for our families, and for me, I've been married 4 years, and we have a 2.5-year-old son now, so the last 4 years really have been spent conforming to other people's traditions, and so right now we're trying to make our own Christmas traditions and figure out how we can incorporate the rest of the family into it without completely forgetting about their traditions. So it's been kind of a struggle, but I think we're starting to get the hang of it, just because we've realized we can't do everything. And,
right, you can't do everything.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a series of growing pains when we go through that. You know, we get married and we have children, and our parents expect us to do exactly what they did, and we have to make our own adjustments and our own habits and our own way of celebrating things. Right. So sometimes that's painful for them and painful for us at the same time, but I can say from experience that it's worth it in the long run to make your own traditions.
Because even this year, I'm just kind of including myself in your Christmas, but with Kathleen's kids, her 2 oldest daughters who have multiple kids of their own are doing their own Christmas on the 25th, and then they're coming here the day after, and we're just going to celebrate here on the 26th as if it's Christmas. And really, I think that says a lot about what we talked about today. Just doesn't matter the day, but just making sure things are meaningful and celebratory anyways.
Right.
Right. And just, and just on the day-to-day thing, other than holidays, the habit of celebration has to be intentional. Mm-hmm. Because one of the stories I shared was, it was the day of a a birthday party for 2 of my kids, and we were doing all of this dinner prep, and family was on the way, and this huge storm hit, and water got into the garage, and our pool was just full of debris that needed removed right away. There was water coming through the foyer light, and because a window upstairs in the master bedroom was leaking and running down the floor and into the foyer light. Oh. And so those conditions were not perfect, but the celebration was worth pursuing. So we did get the water cleaned up, we got the stuff out of the pool, we found where the leak was, and And we still have that celebration that day. And one of the things that we do on birthdays, which is a habit for us, is we go around the table and we say to the birthday person, each person takes a turn and says, something that I've seen in you this year or enjoyed with you this year or some area we've seen you grow this year. And that's a really fun, free tradition. And so being intentional, and I'm going to read you a scripture about that. If I can find it. There we go. He who observes the wind and waits for all conditions to be favorable will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. That's Ecclesiastes 11:4, and that really fit that birthday party that day because, man, the wind was going and there were black clouds. And
It really fits like the life of a mother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like we talked earlier about, because we went live on our Facebook page when we had our coffee discussion with other moms, and we talked about how, you know, like there are going to be kids in this room, in and out, the whole time we are recording, and we just have to deal with it. If we get caught up in everything being perfect or just, we get stuck with the idea of it not being perfect, and then we'll never start it anyways.
Then you never start it. You
Yeah.
never make the cookies. You never play
Yeah.
the games. And speaking of not being perfect, I'm just going to pick on Lori for a second because you can't see
Because
her.
I'm not perfect.
Because no, she right now is acting like one of the kids that we had at the whole house coffee hour because she's sitting on my exercise ball and I'm pretty sure she's going to bite the dust in a minute. She's rocking back and forth. So she's just kind of our representation of what it's like to do things with kids. It's never going to be perfect. Everything is not going to be line up right. And if you listen to the naysayers, your children, I mean, like if you say, do you want to make cookies or do you want to play this game? And they're all like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
If you listen to them every time, you will never do anything.
That's right.
I would
fun.
never get out of the house.
Right.
Because when I ask, Judah loves to go do things, but it's the getting him out of the house part that's hard.
Right.
And for some reason, the only time he plays by himself is like when I need to leave, when we need to go somewhere.
Right.
And so he's like just perfectly content playing Legos.
Yeah.
And I ask him, hey, do you want to go to your grandma's house? And he says no. And I'm like, but I know that you will love it when we get there.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just overcoming the things that try to hold us back from celebrating.
Well, we started reading that book Wonder out loud,
Yes.
and when I first started, they were like, "No, I don't care. I don't want to read this. I don't want you to read it to us. No, we don't care about this book, Mom. You're the only one that cares about this book." But now they're listening so intently. Like I stopped yesterday, and Rebecca's like, "Can you read some more?" You know?
Right.
So, but they fought me out on it when I started.
Yeah.
Right, and speaking as a mother who has children who are adulting, I can tell you that, yep, she almost did the best. Too bad we don't have a camera.
We almost lost her.
Lori almost went over. But my kids who are adults now will mention events from their childhood that I know they melted down at. I know they didn't want to go. They went kicking and screaming. But they remember them now as great memories. Like, remember that time we went to Cooper's Rock, and that would be the child who hit everybody when we were going out the door and wouldn't carry the cooler or, various things. But on the other side of it, they have a pocket full of memories. And one of the things that we talked about, the habit, a habit is something you do over and over and over again. And that's the way it has to be with celebration, because some of the moms mentioned they do a Friday night movie night where at home, and they make popcorn and the kids pick out a movie, and that's a habit to them. And one of the other moms, Claudia, mentioned, she said, I didn't even realize that some of the habits that I am forming are celebratory, like turning on music and dancing around the kitchen and just making everyday activities more fun. That's celebrating.
Or like when I said, since we homeschool, I have the liberty to just say, hey, guess what? Our birthdays are holidays. We're taking the entire day off, and you get to pick what we're doing today.
Yes.
Every year. And they look forward to it.
Yeah.
They know my birthday is a holiday, and I get to pick what we do.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, and I talked about how Judah's been going to like toddler classes at the library since he was 9 months old, and he's made friends there. He gets to go and like do a craft.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to eat snacks that he doesn't usually get at home, like juice boxes and
Right.
cookies that I don't make. But so that's something that's like basically free. I mean, we contribute to snacks a couple times a year, but other than that, like going to the library and hanging out with his friends is something he looks forward to, and it's just it's
Right,
something we
and
do.
that's a very good point, because celebrating can be something that you do on a regular basis that doesn't cost money.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be going to Disney World to celebrate. And you should never, ever, like you said, save all your celebrating for
Yeah.
one day.
Right.
Because kids don't get it. They just don't understand it. In fact, Judah is trying to celebrate with me today because he's used to coming over here when there's nobody else here. He wants me to go to the library and sit in the library chair and read him books, because that's become a habit for him, and that's a habit of celebration for him, which I'm really proud of him. And then I had to say, I can't do that
Oh,
right
Rebecca
now.
took him in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Me too.
we'll keep doing it on
He's
his own.
he's a very tradition. Like, it's funny to think now that we're talking about like celebratory traditions. He just kind of exemplifies that in his personality, because he doesn't forget anything.
Yeah.
No.
Like you just said today, when he walks in this house, he goes to the same thing that he did the last time he was here.
Right.
So like right now, that's the nativity scene, and before it was the nativity scene, it was Play-Doh. It's just
Right.
always he remembers fun things that were done. Oh my gosh! Like Gabe took him downtown. We have a First Friday celebration during the summer in downtown Fairmont, and one Friday, there was a band, and he has never ever forgotten about seeing that band and dancing to the drums. Every time we go downtown, whether it's the coffee shop or the bank
Wow.
or
Oh
visiting
my
Gabe at work, he
goodness.
asks, "Where are the drums at?"
Oh my goodness.
That's
And
so
I mean,
funny.
that was like in May.
Wow. Well, and I'll just share something that's kind of the opposite of celebration, and it was kind of sad yesterday. We went to Barnes and Mobile, as Cecilia calls it, because she wanted to. My granddaughters and my daughter, they wanted to go hang out there for a little bit, and we just get coffee and we read books like we're in a library or something.
That's what I do there.
And that's a celebratory thing that's really part of the Guire family and has been for years. And I think my Aunt Michelle started that, and she's been gone for over a year now, but it was her thing to do that. Just meet us there, and we would hang out there for 3 or 4 hours and drink coffee, and the kids would get snacks and we'd talk. But I saw a family there with the grandparents and the mom and 3 little kids. And it was very sad to me. I couldn't put my finger on it at first because the kids were just running back and forth in the kids area and trying to figure out what to do with themselves. They weren't even taking books off the shelves. And the grandparents were kind of standing there looking confused. And it took me, and I didn't figure it out until I got in the car and we were driving to a restaurant, that I figured out that nobody was opening the purpose of Barnes & Noble. Nobody was celebrating being there. They were just there. Nobody was saying, okay, get this book, let's look at it, let's sit down together. In fact, the mom was on the phone most of the time, which was just confusing to me. But anyway, so there's the opposite. So we do have to be careful, because we can go to those places to celebrate, but if we don't purpose to be there present intentionally, then we're not really celebrating. And we can do the same thing at home. We talked about that during the live coffee, that a lot of times we go through that quote that I read, the buckling in of car seats, the washing of laundry, without paying attention to being celebratory.
Yeah. I talked about how I banished some big toys from Judah's room to the basement. And so now when we do laundry, he gets to play with those toys like his choo-choo train.
I can just visualize this.
Yeah. And so, like, he's really excited to go down and do laundry, and I hate doing laundry. So it's, like, not celebratory for me to go down there, but he loves it.
Oh, tell them about the vent. I love
We
it.
have, like, an old vent in the floor that's not connected to any ductwork, and when I go back up to get another load of laundry, he stays in the basement and wants me to talk to him through the vent.
That's funny.
I just love that. The walkie-talkie system right there.
I didn't say this during the coffee hour, but something else we celebrate is the end of another successful school year. We go and get milkshakes or something and just celebrate, yay, we did it again.
Yeah, I used to do that. No, it's kind of like the freaky family in our neighborhood because our neighborhood at that time had a park that just belonged to the neighborhood, and there was a pavilion down there. So on the last day of school, we'd pack a lunch, and I'd print off all these certificates I made up. Like, I would make sure these kids got loads of certificates that said ridiculous things like, smiled the most this year, or we would just really celebrate. So we'd go down there, and most of the neighborhood was at work, and the moms that were down at the park had toddlers. So here we were eating this picnic lunch, and I'm standing there handing out these certificates and clapping, and it was great fun. It really was.
Well, you had your own classroom anyway.
I did. When you have 7 children, you have your own class. Yep. That's right. So we're just going to wrap this up, and I'm just going to give a couple points. Number 1, remember celebrating doesn't have to cost money. You can do it every day. Just form some habits like movie nights, game nights, whatever you want to do. And you can celebrate doing the laundry like Carly said. And you can make your own holidays like birthdays. You can choose. But here's number 2, because this is the most important thing. Don't wait for the conditions to be perfect, because they never will.
Right.
Yep.
They never will. So, anybody else want to add anything?
I
No.
don't think so.
I think we covered everything.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed talking about this topic, and I'm sure that we'll touch back on it at some point again. But thanks for joining us here at the Whole House Podcast. See you next time. We're so glad you could join us here for the Whole House Podcast. Please subscribe, and if you give us a review, we might pick our favorite and send you a prize. Please remember to like the Whole House Facebook page and follow us on Instagram at _whole_house. And please sign up with your email on our website, thewholehouse.org, to be notified when new things are happening here at the Whole House. Thanks so much for listening.